I was already in my wedding dress, veil pinned, hands shaking, heart racing, when the camera guy pulled me aside and whispered, "You need to see something right now." I remember the exact way my stomach dropped, like my body somehow knew my life was about to split into a before and an after. What I shared with him seconds later is the reason my wedding didn't go the way anyone expected, and it's the reason people still argue about whether I was right or wrong. So before you judge me, before you think you know how you'd react, tell me honestly, if you were about to walk down the aisle and discovered a truth that could destroy everything, would you still go through with it, or would you burn it all down in front of everyone? Let me rewind, because none of this makes sense without the full story, and trust me, I wish I could forget some of these details, but they're burned into my memory like scars. I met my fiancé, Adam, 6 years ago at a friend's engagement party, which is ironic considering how everything ended. He was charming in that quiet, confident way, the kind of guy who didn't need to dominate the room to be noticed. We talked for hours that night, mostly about stupid things like our mutual hatred for olives and how we both secretly loved cheesy reality TV. By the end of the evening, my cheeks hurt from smiling. When he asked for my number, I didn't hesitate. From the outside, our relationship looked like one of those fairy tale slow burns. We moved in together after 2 years, got a dog, talked endlessly about the future. Adam was dependable, kind, and everyone adored him. My parents loved him, my friends trusted him, and even my grandmother, who hated everyone, told me he was a good one. I felt safe with him, and that safety made me blind to a lot of things. One of those things was his relationship with my best friend, Lily. Lily and I had been inseparable since college. We'd survived heartbreaks, terrible jobs, and one unforgettable road trip where our car broke down in the middle of nowhere. She was my maid of honor, my confidant, the person who knew every ugly, insecure part of me and loved me anyway. Adam and Lily got along really well, which at first I thought was a blessing. They joked around, shared memes, and bonded over photography. Lily was actually the one who recommended the videographer for our wedding, a guy named Mark, because she'd worked with him before. Looking back, that detail makes my chest feel tight. The proposal happened on a quiet beach at sunset. Adam got down on one knee, voice shaking, eyes glossy, and asked me to marry him. I said yes without a second thought. I cried, strangers clapped, and Lily screamed so loud when I told her that my ear rang for hours. The engagement period was stressful but happy, or at least that's how I remember it now. There were little moments that didn't sit right, like how Adam would sometimes get weirdly defensive if I teased him about Lily, or how Lily suddenly became hyper, involved in wedding planning. She knew every detail, every vendor, every timeline. I told myself she was just excited for me. Fast forward to the wedding day. I woke up early, nerves buzzing, excitement mixed with fear. The bridal suite was filled with laughter, champagne, and the sound of hair dryers. Lily was right by my side, adjusting my dress, fixing my makeup, telling me how beautiful I looked. She kept hugging me, longer than usual, and I remember thinking she was just emotional. Adam and I hadn't seen each other yet, tradition and all that. Everything felt surreal, like I was floating through someone else's life. About 15 minutes before the ceremony, while my bridesmaids were lining up, Mark, the videographer, knocked softly on the door. At first, I thought he needed a quick shot or wanted to check the schedule. But the look on his face stopped me cold. He looked pale, sweaty, like he'd just run a marathon. He asked if he could speak to me alone. Lily immediately tensed, and I noticed it, even in that moment. She said, "Is everything okay?" Mark nodded too quickly and said it was just a technical thing. Against my better judgment, I stepped out into the hallway with him. That's when he said the words that changed everything. "I don't know how to say this without ruining your day," he started, voice trembling. "But I can't keep this to myself." My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear him. He told me that while he was setting up equipment earlier, he accidentally recorded audio in the groom's prep room. At first, it was just guys joking around. Then Adam and Lily walked in together. Alone. He didn't stop recording because he thought it was private, but he forgot the mic was still hot. What he captured made his hands shake when he showed it to me on his phone. I won't repeat every word here, but the gist was unmistakable. They were talking about last night, about how this has to stop after today, about how they'd be more careful, about how hard it was to pretend in front of me. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred, ears ringing, knees threatening to give out. I remember whispering, "That's not possible," over and over, like if I said it enough times, reality would bend. Mark looked genuinely sick with guilt. He said he didn't know what to do, but he felt I deserved to know before I married him. He asked me not to mention his name if things blew up. I nodded numbly, handed back his phone, and stumbled into the bathroom. I locked the door and slid down the wall, wedding dress pooling around me like a cruel joke. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to rip the veil off my head. Instead, I stared at my reflection, mascara starting to run, and thought about every moment I'd trusted them. My mind replayed memories with a new, horrific clarity, the late-night planning sessions. The way Adam's phone was always face down, Lily canceling plans with me at the last minute. It all made sense now. I felt humiliated, betrayed, furious, and heartbreakingly sad all at once. A part of me wanted to run. Another part wanted to walk down that aisle and expose them both in front of everyone who loved us. I didn't know which part would win. There was a knock on the door. Lily's voice, sweet and concerned, asking if I was okay. I opened the door, and she froze when she saw my face. I don't know what expression I had, but something in her eyes flickered, like she already knew. I told her I needed a minute alone. She hesitated, then nodded and walked away. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely text my sister, who was my matron of honor. I just wrote, "Something's wrong. Please come now." She arrived a minute later, took one look at me, and hugged me while I sobbed into her shoulder. I told her everything, haltingly, between gasps. Her face went from confusion to rage in seconds. She asked me what I wanted to do. That was the problem. I didn't know. Outside, the music started. Guests were being seated. The ceremony was about to begin. This was the moment I dreamed about my whole life, and now it felt like a trap. I thought about my parents sitting in the front row, beaming with pride. I thought about Adam, probably standing there pretending to be nervous in that cute way everyone loved. I thought about Lily, adjusting her dress, maybe feeling relieved she'd gotten away with it. Something inside me hardened. I wiped my tears, reapplied lipstick with trembling hands, and made a decision. I wasn't going to quietly disappear and let them control the narrative. I wasn't going to marry him either, but I wasn't going to protect them. If my heart was going to break, it was going to be loud. I told my sister to trust me and stay close. When the coordinator came to check on me, I said everything was fine. The doors opened. The music swelled. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. As I walked down the aisle, every eye was on me. People smiled, some cried, phones discreetly recording. Adam looked at me with what I now recognized as practiced affection. For a split second, doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? Was there some explanation? But then I remembered the audio, the words, the betrayal. I reached the altar, took my place, and turned to face him. My heart was pounding, but my voice, when I spoke, surprised even me. Instead of repeating the vows we'd rehearsed, I stopped. The officiant looked confused. Adam squeezed my hands, whispering, "You okay?" I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt something snap. I asked the officiant if I could say something first. There was a murmur in the crowd. He nodded, unsure. I turned to face our guests, my family, my friends, my entire world, and said, "Before I can marry Adam, there's something everyone here deserves to know." Gasps rippled through the room. I saw Lily's face go white in my peripheral vision. I paused, heart hammering, and that's where I want to stop for a second and talk to you. This is the exact moment. Everything could still go in 100 different directions. I was standing there in my wedding dress, about to expose the two people closest to me, knowing there was no way back once I opened my mouth. So tell me, honestly, if you were me, would you have spoken up in front of everyone, or would you have walked away quietly and dealt with it later? Comment what you would have done, because what happened next still divides people to this day. I took another breath, my throat tight, and I continued. But that part, the fallout, the confrontation, and the consequences for everyone involved, that's a story in itself. This is already long, and trust me, the next part only gets more intense, more emotional, and more shocking. So this is where part 1 ends, right at the edge of the cliff, with a room full of people holding their breath and me about to drop a truth that would change all of our lives forever. I stood there in silence for what felt like an eternity, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure the microphones were picking it up. And in that split second before I spoke again, I realized there was no version of this where I walked away untouched. So I kept going. I told everyone that the man standing in front of me and the woman standing beside me, as my maid of honor, had been having an affair behind my back. At first, people didn't understand what I was saying. There were confused murmurs, nervous laughs, that uncomfortable shifting people do when they think something is a joke but aren't sure. Adam's face drained of color. Lily actually shook her head, like denial could physically erase the truth. I remember my voice sounding strangely calm as I explained that I had proof, that this wasn't a misunderstanding, that it had been going on for months. When I said that, the gasps became louder, sharper. My mother stood up halfway from her seat. Adam finally let go of my hands and whispered my name like a warning. Lily started crying, real tears or fake ones, I still don't know. Adam tried to take control of the situation, telling everyone this wasn't the time or place, that we should talk privately. That sentence alone made something in me explode. I asked him how long he'd planned on lying to me, on letting me marry him while he was sleeping with my best friend. That's when Lily broke down completely and rushed toward me, apologizing over and over, saying it was a mistake, saying it just happened. I stepped back. I couldn't even stand to have her near me. The officiant didn't know what to do. The coordinator was hovering on the sidelines, panicked. Guests were openly whispering now, some pulling out their phones, others looking away out of secondhand embarrassment. Adam finally admitted it. Not fully, not honestly, but enough. He said he was confused, that it didn't mean anything, that he loved me. Hearing that hurt worse than the betrayal itself. I told him love doesn't look like that. I told him I was done. Then I took off the ring and placed it in his shaking hand. The sound of it clicking against his palm was strangely loud. I remember thinking, so this is the moment my life changes forever. I walked away from the altar alone. My sister followed me immediately, putting an arm around my shoulders as I shook. Behind us, chaos erupted. My father confronted Adam. Lily was sobbing, being led away by her parents. Some guests followed me, others stayed, frozen in disbelief. I went back to the bridal suite, locked the door, and finally let myself fall apart. I screamed into a pillow. I tore the veil from my hair. I felt like my chest was collapsing inward. Years of love, trust, and plans disintegrated in minutes. Eventually, my parents came in. My mother cried with me. My father apologized over and over, even though none of this was his fault. We talked logistics through tears. The reception was canceled. Guests were told to go home. Some people tried to comfort me, others awkwardly avoided eye contact. I overheard someone say they'd never seen anything like it. I remember thinking, congratulations, you're now a story people will tell at dinner parties. That night, I didn't go back to the apartment I shared with Adam. I stayed with my sister. I blocked both Adam and Lily on everything. For days, I didn't leave the bed. I replayed everything, wondering how I missed it, how stupid I must have been. Anger came in waves. So did grief. Not just for the relationship, but for the future I thought I was getting. The kids' names we'd talked about. The house, the life. The messages started pouring in anyway. Mutual friends asking what happened. Some taking sides. Some telling me I was brave. Others saying I humiliated Adam unnecessarily and should have handled it privately. That one stung, because it made me question myself all over again. Was I wrong to expose them like that? Did I ruin my own wedding out of spite? On my worst days, those doubts haunted me. A week later, Adam showed up at my sister's place unannounced. I almost didn't answer the door. He looked awful, tired, broken. For a second, my heart softened, and I hated myself for it. He begged me to talk. I let him, mostly because I needed closure. He admitted the affair had been going on longer than I'd thought. It wasn't just physical. They'd talked about a future together, about how guilty they felt lying to me. Hearing that felt like being stabbed slowly. I asked him why he didn't just break up with me. He didn't have an answer. He said he was afraid. Afraid of hurting me. Afraid of losing everything. The irony almost made me laugh. Lily tried to reach out too. Letters, emails, messages through friends. I never responded. I didn't trust myself to speak to her without losing control. Losing her hurt in a different way than losing Adam. She was my chosen family. Her betrayal cut deeper, more personally. I grieved that friendship like a death. Months passed. I moved out of the apartment and into my own place. I started therapy. Slowly, painfully, I began rebuilding myself. There were days I felt strong, proud even, for standing up for myself, and days I felt ashamed. Like everyone saw me as the girl whose wedding exploded. But over time, something shifted. I realized I didn't ruin my wedding. They did. I just refused to lie down quietly and accept it. About a year later, I ran into someone from the wedding who told me Adam and Lily didn't last. They tried, apparently, but the guilt, the fallout, and the way they started doomed them from the beginning. Hearing that didn't bring me joy, but it did bring a sense of closure. Karma didn't need my help. Now, when I look back on that day, I still feel a twinge of pain, but I also feel pride. I chose myself. I chose truth over comfort. And if I'm honest, I'd do it again. Not because it was dramatic or satisfying, but because it was real. So that's the end of this whole mess. If you think I did the right thing by speaking up, like this video. If you think I should have handled it differently, tell me why in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe. Because trust me, life has no shortage of unbelievable moments. Share your final thoughts below, and I'll see you all in the next story.